A conscious mind only controls, maybe less than 10% of daily function, and the 90% is beholden to that leadership. So I think it's so often people have no idea about the 90% that lies beneath the surface, and they've misunderstood it. They imagine there's an enemy there because they don't understand their own resistance. And so they just keep managing, controlling, tricking, forcing, hating. And if you treat another person like that, I think the amount of resentment that would grow would just be staggering.
Hi, I'm Dr. Joe Vitale. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe to Lux Media Studios. Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. Joe Vitale, and you've landed on Zero Limits Living. Every week, I bring you inspiration and information to transform your life. The show is so popular so quickly, you can now see it or hear it on 1,000 platforms across the planet, including Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire, YouTube, and probably anything you can name or anything you're using right now. To make it easy for you to binge, you can go to ZeroLimitsLivingTV.com. I'm putting all the episodes there, 105, I believe, ZeroLimitsLivingTV.com. Very quickly, people ask about coaching. Go check out my coaching, miraclescoaching.com. It's already tested. It's a strategy that works. It's proven. It was trademarked 15 years ago, but find out, no charge, no obligation, miraclescoaching.com. Latest program so far is mentaltimetravel.com, mentaltimetravelsystem.com. And my latest book is Unexpected Kindness, and I have a new book coming out, which should not surprise you. I have a book coming out called Zero Limits Living. It'll be July of 2024. Zero Limits Living. Now, let me ask you a few questions to pave the way for today's astonishing program. I say astonishing in the most sincere way. If you are trying to lose weight, do you have permission to be attractive? If you are trying to promote yourself, do you have permission to stand out? If you are trying to share your message, do you have permission to speak up? If you are trying to improve your financial situation, do you have permission to be wealthy? If you are trying to stop working so hard, do you have permission to rest? If you are trying to find a partner, do you have permission to be in a romantic relationship or fall in love? If the answer is no, then no matter how hard you push yourself to get these things anyway, you will always be internally resisted until you address the significant safety concerns with getting the things you desire. Permission will be lovingly denied. We're going to explore this and more because my guest is Jaemin Frazer. He's the only person I've ever had on this show twice. His second appearance is today. His new book is The Self-Permission Method. I had pre-ordered it, loved it so much, made a video review for him, ordered more copies, told other people about it. Now I'm doing this show, The Self-Permission Method. Subtitle, How to Succeed in Life Without Using Self-Discipline. I'm pausing for that to sink in. Jaemin, thank you for making time. Thank you for being here. Congratulations on your new book.
Thank you, Dr. Joe. It's lovely to be here. I didn't know I'm the only guest who's come twice. What an honor. That's amazing. Thank you.
You are absolutely the only guest. I've thought about it with one or two people, but no, it's you. It is you. Your book is phenomenal. The Self-Permission Method, as you know, when I had you on the show before about the Insecurity Project and your book along those lines, I told you I heard about this book from you. I pre-ordered this book, and I was waiting at the mailbox every day like a little kid rubbing his hands together, waiting for his present. Got it. And I don't know, Jaemin, if you can see it, but there's a whole lot of bent pages there, folded back because I was taking notes. And I corresponded with you a couple times about it. I want to congratulate you. This book is a revelation. This book is an opening. This book is educational. This book is enlightening. This is the kind of book that can help people transcend the most stubborn problems of their life, because the part of them that's resisting their own good hasn't been addressed by most other books or modalities. This is why I'm so impressed with the self-permission method. Where did you get the idea for it? Where did you get your insight?
Um, well, like all my insights, I suppose, out of real lived experience. Um, the first experience I had of having permission denied in my own life was running marathons. So I've run 8 marathons. 4 marathons I ran on self-discipline energy, and 4 I've run using self-permission. But that gap, when I went to run my 5th marathon, I told my wife, I think I'm going to run another marathon. And she rolled her eyes because she pays a big price when I did that. But the very next day, I had chronic pain all down my left leg, sciatic pain. My piriformis muscle had squeezed that nerve so tightly that I could hardly run. And I thought, oh, that's so frustrating. That's, there's a part of me that doesn't want me to do the thing I want to do. That's so annoying, but I'm going to run anyway. And so the more I ran that morning, the harder that came on. I only got a kilometre down the road. And so I'm not sure all the train of thinking that got me to realize there was a better question to ask. But I just asked what for, because it seemed like it was more than a coincidence that the very day I decided to run a marathon, I had this pain. And so sat down in a meeting with myself, as I like to do, and just realized permission had been denied. And I heard myself say, no, not under these conditions. You can't run another marathon. And why? Well, Jaemin, you're a crazy person when you run a marathon. Have you noticed what happens when you flick the switch? You lose sight of the world. You forget that you're married. You forget that you're running a business. And you get so attached to being on the podium for this thing that the amount of disappointment that you feel if you don't, it knocks you out of the game for 3 months afterwards. So until we have a conversation about a few things, then permission denied. And
this is so fascinating. I think one of the first things that pulled me to your book before I had actually even read it, the self-permission method is the title, but it was the subtitle, because how to succeed in life without using self-discipline. As you know, and you just explained, most of the world is reverent towards discipline and terrified of discipline. You have David Goggins and you have Jocko and you have this whole school of people who are incredibly popular, and they are whipping themselves and urging people to whip themselves to get their results. And it never felt intuitively right or natural to me to go that way. I've certainly been there. I've certainly done that kind of a disciplined approach to getting results. I wanted permission from myself. So when you say you had this discovery and you found out by doing the marathon that there was a part of you resisting it, you had a conversation with yourself and you needed to get permission. Who are we getting permission from? What part of us is holding back permission?
To me, it's the most loving, the most wise, the most honest, the most pure. I think it's the best of us, the part that knows us best, the part that's actually connected to life outside of us as well. And I think that's the challenge with self-discipline. It's so short-sighted. It's a conscious-only strategy. A conscious mind only controls, maybe less than 10% of daily function, and the 90% is beholden to that leadership. So I think it's so often people have no idea about the 90% that lies beneath the surface, and they've misunderstood it. They imagine there's an enemy there because they don't understand their own resistance. And so they just keep managing, controlling, tricking, forcing, hating. And if you treat another person like that, I think the amount of resentment that would grow would just be staggering. It's a horrible thing to do, and no relationship survives if you behave that way. So why would your relationship with yourself be any different?
Well, this is why your book is a wake-up call. It's helping us understand that. I like that you just said, this is the best part of you. It's actually in some way trying to protect you. And in the passage I read, that opening passage was from your book, The Self-Permission Method. You actually even said it could lovingly give permission. It's lovingly denying permission. You got the word love in there because in some way, shape, or form, it's taking care of us. I also know in your book is that you say there's 4 key safety concerns, which explains why permission isn't being granted. Can you talk about either all four of those or one of those? I want to help as many people as I can. I want them to go
Yeah,
read your
sure.
book, and we got a short time together. How can we
Mm.
help people understand and get permission to go get weight loss, finances, soulmate, health, be able to run a marathon without what you just went through? How do we help people?
Yes. Well, I think the first thing is to realize that when you're a kid, the adults held permission. So, and permission always had requirements.
Hmm.
So the kid's like, Miss, can I go to the toilet? Well, no, you haven't finished your maths homework. Do your maths, then you can go. Dad, can I go to the party? Well, no, you haven't mowed the lawn. So do what you're required, and then you can go. And you might resent that restriction, but your parents are lovingly trying to think about all the things you're supposed to do. Your teacher has requirements for you to submit. So you can't just give yourself permission to go to the toilet or go to the party without that having problems. So I hear people say, "Oh, you just give yourself permission to not care what others think, or give yourself permission to, rest, or be happy." That's not how it works. The safety officer, the part of you that is so committed to making sure you are protected, you are safe, your setup is whole, is much less short-sighted than your conscious mind, and has an idea about what's unsafe in your world. And so if you're going headlong into danger and some part of you doesn't pull you up, that'll be a tragedy. A loving parent doesn't let a child run onto the road. They say, no, you can't do this. You can't do that. A loving parent doesn't let their child just eat whatever they like or watch whatever they like. There's restrictions. And so I love thinking about the fact that if I have not been holistic in understanding my world and all the dangers, I would want some part of me to want to have a conversation with that, to go, make it safe, understand what's dangerous, and then let's go forward together.
Well, what are one or all four of those
Yeah.
safety concerns? You can talk about just one of them if you want, your favorites, or
Well, let's just talk about the first one, which is the hardest one, but the foundation of it. If you'd imagine a safety officer come on site in a factory, hit the emergency shutdown button and say, your setup's not safe. You want productivity and profitability, you want to move forward, but not until it's safe. Someone's going to die here. There are four things you're going to have to address before let's power up. That's the same that happens internally. Your unconscious at some point is going to want to address four things with you. And that's the fun of this model. It's so predictable. Ambitious midlifers are going to have to address four things. So let me name the first one in the negative as the safety concern. So if you could imagine at some point the best part of you wanting to stop you and have a conversation about this thing. Hey, listen, Jaemin, you don't trust me. You don't trust me. You're managing me. You've misunderstood me. You're afraid of me. You don't even know me. And here's the thing. Let's not say this is good or bad, right or wrong. Let's just say it's really dangerous. Because if you don't trust me, the world's going to eat you alive. Where is the safe space you're retreating into? If there's no safety internally, if you don't have trust. So this idea of a lack of trust is a very, very dangerous way to be a human being, and a very loving conversation to have. I think about it in terms of any relationship. Like if you've been managed by someone, they don't trust you, and there may be some reason they think you can't be trusted. If you're a new employee, you show up to work, you make a couple of mistakes, and now your boss is managing you, and controlling your results so that you don't make further mistakes. And you kind of get it when you're young, like, well, fair enough, but it never feels fair and it's not fun. And you always feel misunderstood. If you've been managed for the next 20 years because of a mistake you made then, the amount of resentment and injustice that you will have felt toward you is catastrophic. And so in the same way,
can we look at just that one, Jaemin? Because this is a lack of trust. And you talk about having a conversation with yourself. And I'm trying to understand, how do you have this conversation? Because it seems like the trust issue was established when we were kids, and it's some aspect of a deeper part of us. And it seems to be unconscious, or at least not quickly conscious. And so am I having a conversation consciously with the unconscious? But if it's unconscious, how do I know what it's saying or trying to say?
Yeah. I mean, a big part of a big part of how I think about this is I've been married for 25 years,
Mm-hmm.
and marriage is the metaphor. So how do I have a conversation with my wife? Like, sure, she's a human being. She's got a vocal box. She can talk, but she's a woman. She's different. She's more emotional than me. She has a different worldview than me. Like, how do I actually talk to her? To me, what has to happen is I have to come ready and open and willing to hear her, not just, pay lip service to the fact that there are some words being spoken that I cognitively understand. To hear her means to soften, it means to be open, it means to be present for her. What are you saying? How? And until I actually understand her, then we haven't communicated. And so I just feel like there's a part of me that I relate to in the same loving way that I relate to my wife. And I feel like the only thing that gets in the way of understanding is willingness. So if two people from other countries, other cultures, other languages meet on the street and have to talk, how are they going to have a conversation? Well, it will be difficult, but if they want to, they can. And I think that's all you need to know in terms of a conversation with yourself. It'll be difficult. You won't know the language. You might not have had the conversation before, but if you're willing and you want to, there are all kinds of ways for you to understand the best part of you reaching out to you lovingly, getting your attention with a very, very beautiful, very important message to you. And the first of those messages, hey, listen, you've got it all wrong. You have misunderstood me. That time when that thing happened and you thought that meant that I was this. Could we have a conversation about that, please? Because you've thought I've been dangerous to you ever since and have managed me. And it's so unfair and so unkind. And more than that, it's so dangerous. How you're supposed to go into the world and achieve the next things with me as your enemy. That's a ridiculous notion.
Can we role play a hard example? And what I mean by a hard example, I mean a concrete example. For example, a lot of people that watch this or listen to this show, Zero Limits Living, are entrepreneurs. And perhaps they're struggling with making money. And I went through the whole thing like, are you ready to make money? But do you give yourself permission to make money? And there's an aspect of them that is somehow thinking money is bad for them.
Absolutely.
How do they get around that? What would be, maybe you have an example in your own life? Go ahead.
That's a great thing because so that is an issue of trust. It's that somehow money will corrupt. And often people have got some religious experience backed into that some part of their Christian upbringing perhaps had said that, well, rich people are bad people, poor people are good people, money is the root of all evil. You should be poor, you should give money away. And so they're nervous about not just money, but their ability to handle money. If I get money, perhaps money will make me a bad person. I can't be trusted with money. And so here they are with great opportunities to increase their wealth. And yet the best part of them is like, no, you can't, because you are afraid. And if you are afraid, then that's going to lead to catastrophic results. So we have to have a conversation about who you think I am and why you think I can't handle money.
But how do you have that kind of conversation if it's really convinced and has been convinced for a very long time that if you get money in your life, if you're a success, if your business takes off, it is going to hurt you in some way? Absolutely. How do you make peace with that?
Believing Before Seeing, a new bestseller by Candace Barr. Order your copy today.
Well, it's the conversation we had around insecurity, and last time we spoke, that so often people are trying to change their experience within themselves from this end, but you've had years and years and years of living out of these strategies and these fears. And so I think practically the only way to change these opinions and these fears is to go back to the beginning, because they're not inherent. You don't begin with fear. You come into the world relaxed and at ease and connected with yourself. You are one being. And then in some tragic, catastrophic moment, something goes down and you assume the reason it went down like that was because of you. And so in those moments, invariably, you accuse yourself of being the problem. You accuse yourself of being weak or weird or stupid or bad, and in that point, you kind of separate from yourself. Now it's the ideal me managing the real me, so that dangerous part doesn't come out again and ruin your next experience. So I think ultimately the trust conversation has to go back there. It has to go back to the very, very first time You
But can you
accused
find
yourself.
I've read all of your books at this point, and I interviewed you before about the insecurity stuff. And of course, I've read the self-permission method a couple times and have raved about it,
Mm,
reviewed it, promoted it, and here we are talking about it again. So I have a sense of where you're coming from with all of this. And I say a sense because I don't have a clear idea. When you
sure.
talk about going back to the beginning, all right, I have done that in my own head after reading all of your books, and I get back to being 5 or 6 years old. You also said in the last interview and in your book, usually the summation where we judged ourselves is in one word, is in
Mm.
one word. How can we, first of all, do this on our own, or do we need to hire you as a coach to do this? Which means you're going to be really busy when people read your book as a coach. Can they do it on their own? How do they know when they find the one word? And then
Yeah,
that's the
well,
word.
the fun is that behavior never lies. So if you want to know what you actually believe about yourself, if you want to know what you are afraid of, observe how you behave in the current world,
Mm,
and then
mm,
work your way backwards. What must I believe about myself in order to continue to behave this way that's different from my values, different from how I think? I got a client at the moment who has watched themselves consistently not step outside their comfort zone. So they've found one thing that they're good at, and everything else is terrifying. And
mm.
so, how is it that you do that? How is it that you, an intelligent, gifted, loving human being, cannot bear to try something that you might fail at? What must you believe about yourself? And so, just analyzing the data, they're like,
Mhm.
I actually must believe that I'm stupid, that I cannot afford to step outside the one thing I know, because I don't know anything else. My brain is not capable of learning new things. And so, all right, when was the very first time you decided that you were stupid? No one knows the answer to that question because they don't want to know the answer. That would terrify them to have that memory constantly. But
Mhm.
in every
Mhm.
single case, when you are ready to have a look at that, I find that data is stored so precisely, so clearly in Technicolor with all the sound. It's just lovingly prevented from being found. It's hidden in the filing cabinet under the stairs, lock and key, a couple of bodyguards, your
Right, right.
unconscious, keeping that from you because you're not ready for it. You don't know what to do. But you go, I'm ready now. I need to have a conversation with that kid.
Ah,
Are you sure? Okay, well, then in every case, because 0 to 7, they're such informative years, we must find our map of the world. So a pivotal moment when you worked out you were stupid, that is stored so precisely because that has impacted every decision you've made ever since. So
ah,
it's there. You want to see it? It's there.
yeah. And so we can do some soul searching. We can go through our memory banks. We can go back to what we think is the original moment. We can fish around to find the word, which could be bad or could be stupid, or I mean,
Yeah.
you probably know 100 different words that somebody would use. And at that point, is that is that the persona that we want to have a conversation with? Is it the little kid inside who made
Yeah,
that?
it really is because they've been locked down in the cold. They've been mistrusted ever since. It's that part of you. That's when
Ah,
trust was broken.
ah,
If you and I had broken trust and we just said, let's not worry about the thing that happened between us 15 years ago. Let's just start again. Let's be friends. Like let's work together. We might really want to do that.
mm,
But if we haven't had that conversation about the thing that went down 15 years ago, both of us unconsciously will be guarded because
yeah,
we know what happened. We're like,
yeah,
and if it happened then, it could happen again.
yeah.
But if we go back and have the conversation about the thing that went down, and both of us will have built misunderstandings about it over the years, both of us will not have known what each other was actually thinking or doing. We'll have assumed. But if we go back and just have the conversation, what actually went down? What were you trying to do there? I thought, no, I didn't mean that. Really? And just have all the conversation until we're objective enough to hear each other and feel each other. And
Mm,
then go, you're actually not dangerous anymore. You didn't hurt. You didn't actually mean to hurt me then. I misunderstood it, and you've never meant to hurt me since. That okay?
yeah,
Well, then
yeah.
it makes no sense to be guarded toward you. So in the same way, you go back to a part of you that you decided was bad or wrong or weak or stupid, and you have the conversation. You review the data. You, like very hard to review the data when you're a child, but you're an adult now. You've got
Yeah.
more objectivity, more wisdom. You go back and go, yeah, I think actually that wasn't about you. I one of my clients about the stupid thing. She was the youngest of three. Her older siblings were always getting in trouble, but she had never done. Daddy's little princess. She thought, I'm smart because I'm avoiding all this pain. Until one day, her dad picked her up to take her shopping, and she get to the supermarket, and she gets out of the car and realizes she's forgot her shoes. Now, in her dad's map of the world, to have a child without shoes means you're a poor person. So that's super embarrassing to him. And so he unleashes his violent, rage against her for the first time. And she makes a sense of that by going, I thought I was smart, but if I was smart, I wouldn't have left my shoes there. So clearly I'm stupid.
I see.
I'm stupid. And so that was the moment for her where she decided there is a great problem with her intelligence. And it was such a strong experience. She thought she was true. It was true. And so lock it in. That's who I am. And that's this breaking point. The breakdown of trust happened for her at 4 years of age in a car park. And so the unconscious has waited for 40 years to have a conversation about that moment where a mistake has been made, and she's been managing herself ever since.
And what we need to do is have a conversation with that part. So when you have a conversation, is it written out like it's a journal? Is it a conversation out loud? Is it a conversation silently with the different parts? What is your preferred way or recommended way?
I always find it a trap to get too prescriptive around the modality. And I come back to willingness, because that part of you has waited so long. And here's the thing. If you're in the midlife and you're finding all this resistance, and that part of you is desperate for this conversation, does not need to be given much of an invitation, is not waiting, going, I never want to talk to you about this. It's like, I'm desperate to talk to you about this. All you need to do is be willing. Now, we'll have this conversation in all kinds of interesting ways. Maybe there'll be dreams that happen. Maybe you'll be watching a movie and the metaphor of the movie really speaks to you and touches you emotionally. Perhaps you'll journal and you'll write, and you'll imagine a conversation with yourself written. Perhaps you'll go for a walk and say some things out loud.
I see.
But the point is that you turn your heart toward yourself and you realize the horror of the situation. You have been managing yourself because you don't trust. And the problem is that is a dangerous way to be you. And whilever that lack of trust remains, the best part of you is saying, I can't give you more energy, more resources to go stand out and speak up and earn more money and get more things, because you're already precariously placed. So it would be foolish to give you more resources to do something that just will increase the rate of your demise. Could we have the conversation about what's unsafe, please? Yeah. Then have permission granted, and then power up.
Yeah. So, you've several times in this conversation and in your books talked about midlife. Is that where this awareness seems to come around, that people live their lives and somewhere in their what we call midlife, that can be any age these days.
Yeah, of course.
We get to this so-called midlife period, and is this where we're suddenly becoming awake and reflecting, or is the unconscious, that little child that was hurt, suddenly just kind of pulling at us enough that we finally hear it?
Yeah, I think the exhaustion of midlife is the key component. When you're young, you have energy to waste. You don't need to be self-aware to succeed. You can override, you can dominate. You're a very strong, powerful being when you're young, the amount of energy that you have. But I think the midlife is kind of, you don't have energy to waste anymore. And I love the exhaustion of that, and self-discipline, fighting against yourself. Like, you look at Goggins and Willink. Crestfield, I think, is the most tragic of all these, because he's an older guy and he's still fighting against himself. The exhaustion, can you imagine how tired those guys are? So I think the exhaustion gives your unconscious a chance to. I think if there's ever a chance they're ready to listen, like now can be my play. Now's the time. So I'm going to amp up resistance. So it's like, I've had clients that go, but what's happening? It's like there's fuses out. It's like my mind's gone cloudy. I'm getting sick in weird ways. Like, yeah, it's the best of you trying to get your attention and grind you to a halt, because you're out of control. You're a crazy person. You have not ever updated your operating system. And so you'd want that part driving you to a halt so you could make some big changes.
This is so fascinating, and I so love your book, and we're going to be running out of time, Jaemin, which makes me frustrated. But I got to ask here, this show is called Zero Limits Living. And I always
Mm.
ask, and I've asked you, do we have any limits? I'm going to ask this differently. If we get permission from ourselves for all these different things we want, and I listed a bunch when I read the first part
Mm.
of your book, are there any limits at that point? If we get permission from ourselves for the things we want, will we be able to achieve virtually anything?
Well, I think so, because to me,
Mm,
like, I wrote this book primarily around permission to succeed.
yeah.
It turned out that my success was dangerous because I hadn't updated my operating system. And so make the upgrades, now success is safe. But I discovered that this is also about permission to play. That
Ah,
if I create internal safety, then where is it dangerous now? Where is the danger? I've got what I need inside. I have this very vibrant relationship with myself, which is wise and loving and true. Okay, where's the danger in the world now? I can go and have all kinds of experiences in all kinds of ways. I can go follow my heart into the world. And to me, that is a very unlimited place to be, a very
yeah,
unhindered place to be, which is the word I use around that. But
right.
I think, and that has been my experience, just the bliss and energy and flow of having the handbrake off, permission granted. All right, Jaemin, go be you in the world, go nuts. I think it is
Oh,
a
what a
zero.
that is a great answer. I absolutely love it. And I really do love the image that we have this guard that's actually keeping away some of the things we want. But the guard isn't a dictator and it isn't evil. It's actually benevolent and it's trying to take care of us. And what we
Absolutely.
haven't done, these are my own words, is to talk to the guard, is to actually just say, you know what, you're keeping me from fill in the blank. And I know you're doing it for good reasons, but can we talk about this now?
Yeah,
Is
absolutely.
that really it? Right there, we talk
It
about it.
really is. Just listen. Just Stephen Pressfield, The War of Art. I'm going to fight against resistance to get better at fighting.
Yeah,
Stephen, what if you just listen instead? What for? Why is this
yeah,
resistance there? What if this resistance has a loving message for you
yeah.
that you could work with yourself, not be at war with yourself? That's an intelligent approach.
I love your book. What is the greatest takeaway? What do you want people to? I mean, we've already talked about a lot of different things, but in case I overlook something or there's something you really want to talk about, the self permission method, how to succeed in life without using self discipline. It's on Amazon. It's probably in all the bookstores. What's the big takeaway you want people to have?
Okay. Well, the greatest marriages, the greatest business partnerships, the greatest friendships, the greatest relationships are always collaborative.
Mm,
They do not survive with one person dominating the other, one person shutting out the other, one person being afraid of the other. There's no precedent for any relationship health in that. So how could you imagine you would find relationship health treating yourself in the same way? It just makes no sense. There is a better way to bring both parts of you to the table in an adult, beautiful, life-giving, loving relationship. And if you don't want to do that, well, that best part of you will actually get in your way and demand that you rethink that, because that's out of control and it's dangerous.
I can't find it right now, but hopefully you remember there is a website that is Jaemin Frazer. And then is there a test they can take or a
Yes, /
quiz?
self-permission.
Self
And then
permission.
that's right. And a test to go, how are you scoring on the 4 big safety concerns in your life? If you haven't thought about this, well, get some numbers on, which of these 4 are most dangerous. And
Yeah.
that's a useful place to start, because some people are like, where would you start with this relationship yourself? How would you know? But if there's only 4 things to have a conversation about, at least we've narrowed the field of search.
Yes.
4 things. Okay, I can have a conversation about 4 things. Show me the 4 things. That'd be great.
Right. And then go to your website, jaeminfrazer.com or Jaemin Frazer / self permission.
So yeah, jaeminfrazer.com / self-permission is how you'll find that. But jaeminfrazer.com, you'll find it there very easily anyway. But if you want to go straight there, the / self-permission.
I can't thank you enough. You have made a great contribution to the wellness and the enlightenment of the world by writing this book. I mean it most sincerely. The self permission method. Jaemin, you have done well. Are you writing another book? I should throw that in. Or are you
Look,
having to catch your breath after this?
well, I am dabbling with fiction. My first novel,
Ah,
which feels to me an impossible task, and yet a delightful one. So that's my next project. I have no timeline for it, but yeah, that's what I'm writing at the moment.
All right. Excellent. Thank you for making time to do this. I really
Thank you,
appreciate it.
Joe.
I'm very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Everybody, you've been
Bye.
watching or listening to Zero Limits Living. I'm Dr. Joe Vitale. Every week I bring you inspiration and information to transform your life. Shows now on 1,000 platforms, including Roku, Apple TV, Amazon, and anything you can name or use. You can go to ZeroLimitsLivingTV.com to see all the episodes. Check out Miracles Coaching. I want to thank Lux Media for making the show possible, Candace Barr for the invitation to do it, Nick, who's running the cameras and had a birthday yesterday, and thank all of you for being here. You're the ones helping to awaken the planet. I love you all. Expect miracles.